Today we're talking about orgasm and body autonomy. This is based on the work of sex educator Emily Nagoski and her book, Come As You Are, the surprising new science that will transform your sex life. The first thing that she wants us all to know is that we're normal. A lot of us don't know that for sure. You're normal. Orgasm varies by person and with context. 5 to 10% of women never experience orgasm. And like me, many women didn't experience it in their teens. It had to be something that came a little bit later. Problem when we don't experience orgasm is usually too much break. You could look at week 1 again, where we're talking about the exciters and the inhibitors. So we need to turn off the offs. And when we have trouble coming to orgasm, we need a spectacularly good context. Everything kind of has to align. You can learn a lot more about your particular experience with this through Emily's worksheets on emilynagoski.com. What is orgasm? It's a sudden release of sexual tension, and that release feels different depending on the context. And all orgasms are healthy and normal, and they are each different. So it could differ by if you're alone, self-pleasuring, if you're with a partner, are you tired, are you stressed? Is this something you really are desiring right now, or is it more of a way to soothe and to connect with a partner? What kind of stimulation are you using? There are a lot of different elements that go into this. And for women especially, it's how we feel about our sexuality that makes a big difference. This is part of what turns off the offs if we can resolve some of these things. So the meta emotions, we need to close the gap from where we are. So if you feel ashamed and frustrated that you don't orgasm with intercourse, then that's going to inhibit and be a worry or an anxiety when you're having a sexual encounter. We need to get real. We are a collection of different stressors, desires, attachment, appetites, thirst, sleep. Emotional baggage from the past has a big impact on us. We need to let go of distressing thoughts and let them be here without judging them. When the map doesn't fit your experience, trust your body. We have been highly conditioned, especially as women, by a culture who tells us what our sexuality should be. And we can draw a new map that's grounded in science and non-judgmental attention to your own internal experience. Make pleasure the goal. Pleasure is a perception of a sensation, and that's context dependent. Clitoral stimulation is the most common way to orgasm. Intercourse is not an effective way to stimulate the clitoris for most of us. Bringing in a vibrator can provide an intensity of stimulation for your gas pedal that you can't replicate otherwise. Orgasm is not genital response or rhythmic involuntary contractions. Non-concordance is when a genital response doesn't match our experience of arousal. Orgasm is more than just a physical release. A woman's sexual response is not the same as men's, so there are some gender differences here. Generally speaking, women have more sensitive brakes and less sensitive accelerators. We're more sensitive to context. We're less likely to experience concordance between genital response and subjective arousal. More women than men experience responsive desire. We vary widely from each other in our sexual expression, just as in everything else. And our experience of sexual pleasure differs throughout our life, depending on age, hormones, and a lot of other life circumstances. So here's a couple of inquiries to get our whole brain on the orgasm train. I'll just read the sentences slowly. Notice your response. I give myself permission to experience ecstatic pleasure. I am entitled to all the pleasure my body can feel. I am a warm and erotic person who is curious and playful about sex. What could change for this to be more true? What might change in your relationship with your body? How do you feel about self pleasuring? What sexual cues would you notice if you were a warm and erotic person, curious and playful about sex? What are some of your favorite turn ons? What is your favorite thing about your sexuality? My pleasure belongs to me to share or keep as I choose, to explore or not as I choose, to embrace or avoid as I choose. Inquiry. I'm curious about my lack of sexual desire. Has something changed in your context that influences your desire? Sometimes a lack of sexual desire is a long term experience, other times it's more situational. Whether this is a short term or longer term experience, what contexts could you create that would help you to want sex? Then there might be some value judgments and opinions to let go of. Do any of these apply to you? Feeling like spontaneous desire is better than responsive desire. I shouldn't take so long to warm up. I'm inadequate. I'm broken. I shouldn't be like this. Our core deficiency beliefs. Conditioned ideas about women's role to pleasure men. Feeling that exploring my sexuality is scary. And this is highly relevant to our past traumatic experiences. And judging ourselves for having trouble with sex or having things that turn us off. Use the worksheets on emilynagoski.com to explore these. She has several worksheets on what turns us off, what turns us on, how to create context, and to get to know ourselves better in this area. And the next 3 slides are about therapeutic self-pleasuring for women. First, we need to know our body. We need to be able to find our clitoris. Culturally, the clitoris is the little nub at the top of the vulva, but biologically, the clitoris is a far-ranging, mostly internal anatomical structure with the head emerging at the top of the vulva. A pair of legs extend from the head of the clitoris deep inside the tissue of the vulva, then split to straddle the urethra and vagina. The clitoral hood covers the head. For women, the anatomy of pleasure is not as easy to find as it is for people with a penis. If you have a clitoris, you can find it visually. Get a mirror, spread your labia, the soft, hairy outer lips, and look. It's the nub at the top of your vulva. Or you can find it manually. Start with the tip of your middle finger at the cleft where your labia divide. Press down gently and wiggle your finger back and forth. And scoot your fingertips slowly down between your labia until you feel a rubbery cord under the skin. It might help to pull your skin taut by tugging upward on your mons with your other hand, and it might help to lubricate your finger. Once you've found your clitoris, then work on creating a great context for self-pleasuring. Touch your body and notice how that feels. Start with everything except your breasts, lower abdomen, and inner thighs, then gradually include them. Stimulate your clitoris indirectly, then over time more directly. Bring your attention there and notice how it feels. You could use a vibrator, your hands. Experiment and notice how it feels. And as you're pleasuring yourself, keep breathing. Relax your abdominal muscles. Allow pleasure. Do this alone first, and then gradually, if you want, include others. Remember that you are already at the goal state, which is pleasure. I highly recommend Emily Nagoski's work. Her book, Come As You Are, the Netflix series, Principles of Pleasure, and her newsletter. Connect with her through her website, emilynagoski.com.